Welcome to the next installment of my Composing with Nada video series. A couple of things that I thought about between the last video and this one. A lot of people kind of debate whether the standard tuning of A440 or the alternate tuning of A432, which is believed to be more in harmony with the body, is the best way to go. So I'm going to show you that you have some options. For one, if you're going to change the tuning, most of the virtual instruments, unless they state otherwise, I don't think I've ever seen one that's come a different way, come in the standard tuning of A440. So if you want to change to A432, you're going to want to do it with everything that you're putting into your song, right? Because to have different tunings, that could make things sound very different. Even though we're talking a small degree of change, could have an impact. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to do it in 432. Yeah, we can do it now because we haven't recorded any audio yet. So we can do it up to that point. If you have bounced the tracks from MIDI to audio and you want to change it, you would just have to rebounce them, which is fine. I'm going to talk about that at the end of this video. So let's work on engine first. Right here in this section, we have pitch. And we just want to drop this down. We want to change it to hertz, and we're at 440. So we just want to hold on to this and drop down to, it's a little bit sticky, 432. All right, piece of cake. Now for our piece that is in play, which is the east-west engine, as you can see right here, we want to go to settings. And then in the dialog box, we have right here, we're in 440. So we just want to drop that down. You can use the slider, or you can use these convenient little buttons, which are going to take a little bit longer probably, but maybe easier to nail, to 432. Boom. So if we were using, and we want to apply that, by the way, to make sure that that stays. So if we were using Contact, we would also want to do it in Contact. So far, I haven't loaded any instruments in Contact. It's all been engine and play. So there's our first thing. We've made that change. Let's go ahead and save it. And a couple other things of note. If I go back to our little spreadsheet here where we're keeping track of all the things that we've done in the song, we are basically in the key of C. And I'm going to go ahead and put at 432. That way I know that this is a song that I've changed. If I add anything else, any other outside instruments, I'll need to make sure that I change those as well. That may limit some of your choices, I should also point out, because some instruments you may not be able to change. And if you change your DAW, if you're somehow able to do that, I don't think that you can in Sonar. I don't know if any of the other ones can, but we've already modified other instruments, so that's going to throw them off. So something to keep in mind if you're going to use any alternate tunings here. Also, I realized I didn't capitalize the F for fantasy, so we'll fix that. But we also have a tempo. We're doing this at 110 BPM, which you can see up here. And so we've been able to fill in a couple things. We'll save that, get that out of the way. We're going to be doing some adding here in a moment because I had an idea for a different direction that I want to take the song in other than the original intended straight and new age. Quick background of how this came about. About a month or so ago, my buddy Tommy Schaefer, who is living his dreams sailing across the world. I love that. He's a very skilled musician and a really cool guy, one of the nicest people I've ever met. We met on a film set of a short film that was being shot in Phoenix. We were using his house and met him and got to know him, and we've been friends ever since. Anyway, he sent me this track that he wanted me to check out. It was over 20 minutes long. It was a chill out track, and I know nothing about chill out music. I've listened to a little bit of, a couple clips here and there on YouTube, never really sat down and dissected it, or if it was relevant to me, something I wanted to play with. So I listened to this track. It's like 20 plus minutes, and I'm kind of getting an idea for what it is. And it's very similar to the music that I make with Mental Sauna, only adding more percussion. In fact, I could go back and listen to maybe a couple of the earlier Mental Sauna songs and maybe they would qualify. So I thought, it would be interesting to see if I could write something along this vein. So the next day I wrote a track. I sent it over to him. I said, what do you think? Give me your honest opinion. He listened to it and said, yes, this is exactly what chill out music is. So I thought we would take this piece and add some percussion to it and change it from an ambient track to a chill out track, because that seems to be basically the difference, is the percussion having, a bit more of a groovy bass line, which is why I added the bass line that I did in our last video, and with the intention of adding some percussion on this one. Now, unless I get any other crazy ideas, which, at this point early in the video, I'm certainly going to say is possible, I am going to complete the song in this video and bounce the first track, which is going to be relevant. So I'll do that at the very end and explain why, and we'll go from there. So we've got all these blank tracks here are in Engine. I don't know if I'm going to use anything else in Engine, probably not. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these. We're just going to get them out of the way. There's no reason to have blank tracks just floating out there in the middle. So I'm going to delete all of those MIDI and audio tracks. We still have a MIDI and audio track for each thing that we've done, but I'm going to use some percussion from East West, because I've got a couple of programs that I think will work really well. So I'm going to add a couple of MIDI and audio tracks. Again, I've got hotkeys for these, just M for MIDI, A for audio, and it just goes ahead and adds those based on hotkey. So we're going to label these 2, 3, and 4 because I've already got one. We're going to drop down our, oops, not that way. Oh, it's so tricky here sometimes, so tight. Okay, so we're going to move that, and we're going to move that down here. Those are the GUIs for the like Goliath. Right there you see play 1, that brings up Goliath. But I want to keep all the MIDI and audio tracks together, but I have to route them, of course, so that the system knows what I'm doing. So we're going to go into track 2 here, because track 1's already routed. We recorded that in the last session. Our input, again, is our key station. We want to do Omni, and we want to route it to play. And this is going to be channel 2. Then we're going to do the same thing for channel 3 and 4. Back to key station Omni. Back to play. This one's 3. And yes, this does get tedious. This is why I make templates. But remember, I had a problem with the template. It was not recording properly. There was something weird going on with the metronome. So I had to redo the template. And I had tried a couple times. So I think I'm going to have to just get rid of that template altogether. See how well I can make decisions while I'm speaking. No, that's 4. There we go. Okay. So then, of course, we want to go ahead and save. And we're going to go back to track 2 because that's where we're at. Yeah, so with that template, I had 16 tracks for play, and I had 16 tracks ready to go for contact. But because that template wasn't working, I had to just restart. So I started with the basic Engine template that I had that worked, and just figured, well, if I use anything else, we'll just add as we go, which is what I just did. And after a delicious sip of coffee, we will continue on. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to pick some percussive sounds. Now, I know that in Goliath here, which is kind of a catch-all. It's your go-to for basic instruments. So it's basically got your general MIDI bank, which covers a range of a lot of different things, which is going to be a lot of your songwriting. But it also has some orchestral stuff, some synth pads, a bunch of different things. So it's kind of a go-to, like a black box. And sometimes I'll replace those with other things. Sometimes I'll sketch with Goliath and then go find, better sounds or bigger sounds. Most of the time I just go for what I want in the first place. But for the purpose of this, we're going to start with some Goliath. We do have acoustic drum kits, but we don't want acoustic. We really want electronic drum kits. That's kind of where we want to go for chill. I'm not really familiar with a lot of these kits because I don't use a lot of electronic drums. So let's just start with something that sounds fun. Booyah! It's got a good ring to it. So we'll go ahead and add that in. If we don't like this, we'll just replace it. So you can see it comes up here on channel 2. If we go to the player, we can make some adjustments. But here we can see we have just a very few keys available to us here. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff here. This could work. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to our sheet. So we'll go on the sheet, we'll go Goliath electronic drums. And it's percussion. Simple as that. And let's pick a couple more while we're at it. So let's go back to the browser and we'll look at, I remember there were some cool things on the Bruno kit. I had used that for something like some film or something I'd worked on a while back. So let's check that out. We'll add, now if we didn't like the Booyah kit and we wanted to replace that, we would just hit replace current, but we want to add a third patch to this. So again, we can see here we have pretty much the same keys. Okay, so I'm not sure these will work. Probably not. Okay, so let's look for something different. How about the Live Evil kit? That sounds, you know, like it's for children. So we'll replace, and we want to replace the Bruno kit. That could be useful. All right, let's keep that for the moment. And again, as we're actually working, well, capitalizing would be nice. If we were actually working with these sounds and we don't like them, we'll just come back and, you know, switch them out with something else, or maybe we don't need that extra track. So we've got Live Evil. And just a quick save here because we've made a couple of modifications, and we'll do one more. You know what? We might need a shaker. That might be nice. I know there's some nice shakers in RAW. Let's see, Middle East, no. Wait, no, Africa. I think there's some good African shakers, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. No, that's a little bit too rough. Let's see, dual wood maybe we'll replace because we don't want to use that. Quick loads on some of these too, which is nice because they're smaller. You know, there's not that many keys, so there's not that many layers of sounds. Nope, don't like that. Let's try the metal shakers. You just want to replace the one, not all, for sure. Oh yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we've got some stuff to work with there, so we'll put shakers here. But here on the sheet, we want to go raw Africa / shakers. That's our path. And the patch name is African Metal. These are metal shakers. And again, that's we'll just put shakers for the type of instrument. So after we've added our percussion, these are the ones that we've just added right there. And we will go ahead and save this. Boom. And move on and see what we've got to work with here. So I'm going to go back to this third one because I really like that one sound. Where was it? There, right there. I think that's going to work. And that's probably going to be something we're going to want to use throughout the whole thing. 4.5 minutes. Let's see. I'm going to hit record and let's go. I think if I want to start right at the beginning or want to wait until the second one. I think I want to wait until the second one. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll stretch this out a little bit here. Remember, this is a bit slower of a tempo, but that could work. quarters for the first half. So if here we did quarter notes. So let's go 16ths. We'll quantize these a little bit. Yeah, that didn't really work as much as I thought. Let's try, oh wait, I want to keep the 16ths to narrow it down, and maybe we'll go to 8ths. Ah. Nice. But we're going to copy and paste this, so remember we want to go back here. We just want to move this over, make sure that it starts on the line. Then we're going to go ahead and copy that. And we're going to paste it down. Again, normally I would play straight through this. Oh, section's got a different length to it, that's right. So maybe we'll play something different on that section, or maybe not have this part there at all. We do have lots to choose from. So we're going to go ahead and end it right there. Remember, we had that big pause where it takes that breath before we come in for the last note, so we may or may not want to play percussion over that. So, okay, so there we are. There's our first percussion track. And again, normally I would play that, get different velocities, make it more alive, but for the purpose of the video, I'm just doing this to make it so you're not sitting here watching me play for hours. Or watching the screen as I play, I should say. Okay, so let's get rid of this solo. So now let's go back to our earlier percussion track here, the Booyah kit. And we'll go back, see again if we want to watch the action. I wonder though if I can change that envelope a little bit, the release. No, it's the sample. It cuts off pretty quick. That's not bad. I could probably do something with that. Okay, we're not going to worry about adding any effects or anything because we're going to do that. Sometimes I do them as I go, and sometimes I do them after. The way that I'm mastering now adds a little bit of reverb to the whole thing, so I kind of back off a little bit more on the effects now unless I really want that instrument to have some depth and reverb, like on a drum set or something like that. Okay, let's see here. What can we do with this? So for this one, I just want to do that there because I'm going to change things up a little bit. Let's go 16th, and we'll narrow it down with the 8 to make sure that's not too much. Okay, not bad. So that's what we want to do for that first section. Save really quick in case I lose the idea. But now we want to change it up, and this is the part that we're going to copy. So that would help if I made the cue. Okay, so we'll go back to, I always go the wrong way, 16th and then 8th. And then we want to just make sure that we're locked on because that's what we're going to copy. Okay. Come back to this middle section later. Let's go to the shakers. Save it, of course, that's what we do. We always save. Better safe than sorry. And let's see what the shakers were. I'm going to go back and make sure that our input is on shakers. There we go. Oh, that's better. I like that groove. Yeah, that's better. Let's say we want to start that after the opening. Maybe after the first pass too. Let's start it here. Change it up, but I wanted to play that live so we'd have at least one track, you know. Yeah, I think that's nice. I think that works. So that's a lot of stuff that was played, but I wanted to have one track at least that was all the way through played live to give it that human feeling. Sometimes if you are in a time crunch and you just have one or two tracks that you do live can really add depth to the other tracks. They're not as noticeable that they were copied and pasted, that the performance is exactly the same. And then, it makes the track a little bit more realistic feeling. So let's go through and do we'll do the quantizing here. I'm gonna take it down to 8, but we'll see if that works. Oh, you know what I want to do while I'm doing that? I might as well show you guys what I was actually playing. I meant to bring that up on the screen and just missed it completely because I'm getting old. Here it is. Okay, yeah, I think that works really well. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. But I honestly feel like we need one more track, something to kind of carry it along a little bit more. I'm really kind of going back and forth between whether I want to use like congas, bongos, or toms, and I think we could find like some light toms that we can use. So I'm going to add another MIDI and audio track. And you can right click and do them where you want them to be, or you can just take these and move them down, whatever is easier for you. Again, it just depends on how your digital audio workstation works. So I'm going to just go ahead and label this toms. So you can see too, just like with Engine, when you change the instrument that you're sending it to, this is quantumly raw. When I was working in the Goliath patch, it changes it to Goliath. I want to go to... Well, I guess I want to try Goliath, and we'll have to route this channel here, of course, because that's every time you add one, you got to tell the system where you want it to take from and send it to. So I'm going to go play 5. Boom. Okay. So I want to go back to Goliath here, and I want to go to, I think there's a, like a, oh, that might have been in Storm Drum. Yeah, there was like a tiny percussion in Storm Drum, but let me see if Storm Drum 2 has it, because it has a best of Storm Drum 1. So there we go, small percussion. Remember the African talking drum was nice. Talking coconut's kind of fun. Island bongos might not be bad, but that does kind of sound, you know, so typical. Let's try the African talking drum. I can't remember what that sounds like, so we want to add that. Of course, we're going to go here and go back to Goliath. Oh no, this is a Storm Drum 2. So Storm Drum 2, we're going to go to best of SD1, small percussion. And we're going to put in African talking drum. Which, again, if this doesn't work, we'll go ahead and take that out, and it is percussion, so we'll just add that in the last box. All right. See what this bad boy's got. This might not be low enough, but that could be cool. So we might end up doing more. This one, I like that pitch the best. Where to start? Let's try here. That was pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, I like that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll take that. Whoa, be on the right channel. There we go. Gotta tell this computer everything, I swear. You know what? I wonder if we just keep that going through the whole thing. Oh, that's not gonna work though. You know, because we don't want to have it start with just those. So maybe what we'll do is see how many measures is that. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just 4 measures, so we'll go back 4 measures. 2, 3, 4. We'll copy that. We'll paste that there. Okay, then we want to go back to the beginning and have it do that lesser part. And there too. Okay, perfect. All right, but I still feel like we're missing something. So, okay, I'm going to save that, and then we'll add one more track. And this is how you do it if you want to right click. So you would add insert a MIDI track, and this puts them where you want them as opposed to having to move those other 2 tracks. Then we'll insert an audio track. Okay, so we're going to go with track 6. That's where we're at. And again, like you can tell MIDI track versus audio track depending on what insignia that you see there. So we're going to go key station, Omni, play, and 6. There we go. But what what are we going to use? What's going to make this work for me? I think toms are going to be too much. I think maybe I'll try those. I'll try those island bongos. I think that's probably going to end up being the best thing. So we'll go back to play. And where were those? Those were under, no, they were under Storm Drum 2, Best of, Small Percussion, Island Bongos. There we go. So again, we'll add, I'll update my sheet. And the nice thing about that is I could actually copy that whole line and just overwrite the name, because everything else, that whole path is the same. So again, we're limited to this right here. Okay, nothing on those. Okay. Yeah, maybe a little something like that. And let's play these through all the way as well. I want them from the beginning though. Yeah, I think I do. Okay, so we're going to play these all the way through here, and we're just going to see what happens. It's exciting. Oh, you know what, though? I want you guys to see what I'm doing. So, just going to move that out of the way, though. And I'll probably fade those in, too, a little bit. So I know I played a few of those notes a little bit off. I think they're all under eighth notes though, so just gonna go ahead and try it. We'll see how it sounds. Yeah, it's a nice little percussive build, I think. I don't know if this qualifies statistically for chill out because I'm still trying to, understand where those lines are, but I think it's got that feel. And that's just how easy it is to do a percussive build. So let me just, let me get this out of the way for a minute, and let's just check that middle section and see if that's too bare. It might not be now, but let's just see. Let's go ahead and save real quick. There's that. I kind of like it like that because if we add something more, it's going to take the drama away from when everything else comes back in. Which will be much more dramatic, of course, once we're actually, mixing it. But yeah, I like that. I like that transition. I don't want to add anything more, I don't think. I think that works as it is. So I'm just going to go and keep everything where it belongs, move that over, shrink it down. We've got our templates saved. Today, really the writing's done. So on my sheet for today, it is May 20th, as you can see by the calendar in the bottom right of the screen. So May 20th, 2023. Now, this song right now is going to be just listed as not a full song for video. That's what I've named it for the purpose of the video. However, if this does qualify for chill music and I do a chill album, I've put my graphic artist Kelly, who I love dearly, to a bit of a challenge for this next album. Normally, I think I mentioned this earlier, I send her, this is the demo songs or kind of where I'm heading. If I have an album idea, I sketch out some hideous thing on pencil and send it over to her, and then she turns all that into spun gold. So this time I said, well, why don't you come up with the picture and I'll write to that. Well, in the meantime, this whole thing with Tommy Schaefer happened. And so after he confirmed it was chill out music, I sent it over to Kelly and I said, hey, what do you think of this? And she goes, that's kind of a direction I would consider for the artwork. So it was something that was kind of on her mind already to have some kind of percussion and stuff in there. So the next Mental Sauna album may turn out to be a chill out album. And if so, this piece may end up on it. Now, I'm not saying I might not modify it between now and then. That's possible. I don't know if it'll make the album in this state, but certainly a possibility. So yeah. Yeah, we're off to a good start. Now, since these are the only patches that I'm using, obviously, I want to clean up my sheet a little bit. I haven't done anything with the copyright of the song yet, so we don't need to put it there. Everything, if I remember right, the whole thing is in C. So we didn't use any of these patches here in Engine, so we can go ahead and delete those. And then we didn't use the rest of Play. We didn't use anything in Contact, so we can go ahead and delete those, keep our sheet clean, and go ahead and resave it. And I also save it as a PDF as well. That way, if something happens to one format, because I had problems. I used to do all these in a program called Write back in the day, and they were just on a like a regular document and not a spreadsheet. And a lot of those got lost because the write no longer worked. That was like a Windows 3.1 thing. And I had to recreate a lot of stuff that was very painstaking. So now I save them in multiple formats. I'm sure Excel and PDF will be around until, long after I'm gone. But in the meantime, it's always good to have a backup, just in case anyway. Okay, so that being said, one more thing I want to do in this video. So we're done composing the song. We want to go ahead and save it, and we want to go ahead and save it as a MIDI file as well. Again, there's your two backups. So we're going to go ahead and save as MIDI format 1. We want to overwrite the one that exists. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make an audio ready version, because we're going to take all these MIDI tracks, we're going to bounce them to audio. And so I'm going to save as, and instead of it being not a song for video, it's going to be not a song for video, audio. And we need to put that in the regular audio format, not in the MIDI format. Because once we're done bouncing everything and we verified it, then we're going to go ahead and delete out all the old MIDI tracks. We're going to take out engine. We're going to take out play, because once this is done, we don't need that anymore. I've got my version of it saved. The last one I saved before I put the word audio on it, that has all the data. The MIDI is the backup. The patch list is the backup if I ever need to recreate it. I've got everything ready to go. I can do it in a matter of minutes. So that being the case, there's one other thing with audio versions that are very important difference with MIDI versions. So with MIDI, the data basically ends here. That's the end of where I hold the note. That's the last part of the MIDI data is how long you hold it. So, but that doesn't work for the audio side of things. Now this is a little easier because we've got a nice pause here, so we can actually work with this and just isolate it. Normally you would have other tracks that go into this, so you would have some bleed over. But I kind of set this up for a nice little bit of an ending for us to work with here. So let's see how long the audio actually goes beyond the MIDI line. Okay, so it goes a little over 129. So what I want to do is, if I bounce the track, it's going to end here. And that's going to be the end of that. It's going to cut off that audio. I don't want to do that. So in the audio version, what we need to do is we need to stretch this to the 130. You can even go an extra measure if you want to give yourself some space to set yourself up for time between tracks. However you want to do it is fine. I'll go, let's see, 130. I'll go to 132. And we can always cut that later. We can always add on to it just as easily though. So for the audio version, and then what happens is every track that you bounces the full length of the longest track. So even though there's going to be silence on the rest of these tracks, they're going to bounce all the way to the end so that it doesn't miss any data, because it really doesn't know the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. We're on track 1. I'm going to go ahead and save this again. This is our audio version. And I'm going to bounce this track to audio. So in Cakewalk by BandLab, we want to do is go to track. Well, we want to actually only have the track we want available. So we're going to mute all the other tracks. You can also solo it. For me, I like to just mute them. It's something I've just done since the beginning, so I kind of stick with it, but either one works. You would solo this track if that's the one that you wanted to bounce. You're going to bounce the one with the data on it to the audio track, which is blank. And you just do that for each corresponding one. That's why I always put the MIDI track and then an audio track beneath it. It just keeps things organized in an order. It also matches the order of your patch list. So we only have this track. It's the only one we can hear. So we're going to go ahead and bounce this. And we're bouncing that track to the light pad. That's the first one on the list. And this will now take that MIDI data and bounce it into an audio format, like a waveform. And then that's what we're going to manipulate in our mixer. That's where we can add effects, panning things. Well, we could add panning. We could add a minimal amount of effects in MIDI. But it is somewhat limited. You can also do them within the confines of whatever your program is. You can add some effects in Engine. As we've seen, you can also do the same thing in Play or Contact. But I'm not adding any major effects except maybe some reverb, just depending on how the whole thing sounds when I go to do the mastering. So the most important thing right now is to just get everything converted over, and then we can manipulate it later. Depending on the song, like if I'm working on a rock song, let's say I've got a full drum kit with, kick on one track, snare on another, or toms on another, maybe a left and right, hi-hat, ride, all individual tracks. I typically have those panned as I go so that all those are ready to go. They're in my template panned. I can always, move anything if I need to. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, this is a very simple track, so there's not going to be a whole lot of that. More with the percussion that we're going to want to move around a little bit and give its own space to. Right now, everything's just panned to the center. Since we're not using a whole lot of layering on the pads, we're not going to have to move pads left and right. Pads a lot of times because they're stereo. Same with pianos, same with synthesizers. If they're a stereo synth and not a mono synth, I'll keep those dead center. If it's a mono synth, I might move it left or right to just kind of give it its own space in the audio field. We'll get to all that in the next video, but what you can see here is that I have turned this from a MIDI to an audio track. So if we mute the MIDI and we just listen to the audio, we get the version without it having to access the sample. So it should sound exactly like the other track where it's the MIDI because it's triggering that sample. When we get down to the Booyah kit, I'll have to remember that I wanted to fade that in. Sometimes what I'll do here is make notes of things that I want to do later. So for the Booyah kit, I'm going to put fade in. And I'm going to highlight this so that I make sure it catches my eye when I go to do the mix. And I'll do something, like I'm not angry, it's not angry or whatever, but red will likely catch my eye if I see that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to make you guys wait while I bounce all of these tracks individually. That's really a waste of your time because you saw what it does, and now it's just really the tedious work of going through each track and running that process. So I'm going to end this video here. We'll get, when I start the next video, all of these will be bounced. I'll show you how to get rid of the MIDI tracks. I'm going to go ahead and bounce them, verify them so that I'm ready to go with deleting things and not wasting your guys' time. This video is like way longer than I thought it was going to be. So anyway, that video will be coming up next. So take care, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. We're done with the composing. We're on to mixing and mastering, which I've kind of simplified that process for me on the last couple of albums. I'll show you that in the next video. Cheers.